Hello, everyone, and welcome to the United Faithfuls Podcast, which is the first episode of this. I'm here with Zach and Taylor, and we're here to talk about the latest things this week and the past few weeks involving Manchester United. Now, we'll start with the takeover, and obviously we've had the news this week that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is likely to get his 25% stake in the club, with Sheikh Jassim pulling out of the bidding process last weekend. And the recent news today is takeover may not be completed by the beginning of the January window. So I'll come to you, Zach, first of all. Where do you see Manchester United going from here?
Big question to start off with. Look, we all would have preferred that 100% takeover. Who by, that's a matter of opinion. But, seeing it won't happen until January means it's not going to have an impact until at least next summer. It's a tough way forward. I'm not entirely negative about it. With the reports coming out that there will be some control over the sports side of it, at least from Ratcliffe. I can hope that we'd get at least a competent director of football in at least. But at the same time, that we've been sold a lot of dreams with Man United. So I just guess we'll have to wait and see for now.
And if I could pose a different question to you, Taylor, is we've obviously had the news today that there's going to be an overhaul at higher level with current employees worried about their jobs. Today, Brailsford, obviously at Nice now, is looking like he's going to join Ratcliffe on the sporting side with Joel Glazer. Are you confident in those three in terms of the footballing operations?
I think, honestly, whoever we bring in, it's just got to be an upgrade. I don't think the standard's very high. I think it's quite easy to appease the fans at this point. We just need to bring in a couple statement signings in the first transfer window, whether it's Paul Mitchell, who takes charge. Obviously, he's got a good history. I think a lot of fans will be happy to see him in charge. Just someone with a better footballing brain than John Murtough, I think.
I do think as well, on the with that quote that Joel Glazer will be part of that sort of overarching committee, I do think that will get taken out of context quite a bit. He's not, we said before the call, he's not had much impact on the football inside, well, directly anyway, over the last 20 years. So I don't see why he'd start making decisions on his own, at least now.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with both of you on that. And then obviously to go through details of both bids, Ratcliffe's deal is looking like it's going to be 1.3 billion for just a 25% stake in the club. And Sheikh Jassim's bid was rumoured to be around $8 billion, including the investment on new infrastructure as well, which is just mind-boggling numbers to do with the football club. And obviously, in his statement, if I remember rightly, he said something about having a future commitment given an upfront to them, upfront in the stadium, and not to the Glazers, which obviously wasn't very taken very well by the Glazers. Just to come to you, Taylor, what did you want the Qatar bid rather than Ratcliffe?
I was indifferent. I think that a lot of fans sometimes forget that if you go back 3 years, anyone who's not the Glazers would have been a positive. So Qatar obviously had more money. They could have either redeveloped the stadium or built a new one from scratch. I don't think I would have wanted a new one from scratch, but they could have really modernised Old Trafford. There was reports about Mbappe being high on Sheikh Jassim's transfer targets. But if Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to eventually weed the Glazers out, then I'll take it.
And then, Zach, if I come to you, Ratcliffe had his breakthrough in talks around 3 weeks ago, and we know that Ratcliffe at the time was looking to fully invest in the club as well and take majority control. And then he suddenly changed his bid to get the 25%. Do you think that changed the way the Glazers looked at it, and it sort of gave the Glazers a lifeline in a way?
I think that definitely would have been the Glazers' preferred option when they did see that 25% bid come in. And then I assume Qatar sort of caught wind of that and called it a day, knowing that the Glazers would accept that. Yeah, it definitely would have been the Glazers' preferred option.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you on that. And then obviously you briefly mentioned there Paul Mitchell, and I think there's been a few names mentioned now, and we've obviously seen over the last 10 years since Sir Alex Ferguson retired and the recruitment hasn't been the greatest, and we've spent a lot of money and we've not done very well with that money. If Sir Jim Ratcliffe is to bring in a new team, do you think there's there's more. You'd have more confidence in us to build a better side, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can only go through so many managers before realizing the problems lie above him. If Paul Mitchell comes in and we do have a transformed side in the next few years, then I don't see why we couldn't challenge. I personally don't think that will happen very quickly. But if he's given the money that we've spent over the last 10 years, not necessarily by the Glazers, but just through the club itself, then yeah, of course, there is the possibility that we do become a decent side.
And then obviously this is now sort of bringing to an end a year-long process since we had the announcement that they were looking at those strategic alternatives back in November. And I still think there's a lot of unanswered questions within this. And I don't know if you feel the same, Taylor, but do you think there's still a lot of unanswered questions in terms of the ownership of this football club?
Do you mean in terms of where it is now, or where it will be after the takeover?
I sort of mean where it will be in a few years' time once Radcliffe gets sort of his way with the club.
Yeah, I think that's where most fans' issue comes in. Sheikh Jassim pulled out his plan, and he made it very clear what he wanted to do. He gave a step-by-step program, which I think fans, we just want something that we can, I guess, hold them accountable to. After years of the Glazers, false promises, no investment, I think Sir Jim Ratcliffe really does need to illustrate what he's going to do if he does get control of the sporting side of the club.
And then I think another really key point that United fans are obviously worried about is the fact that this overhauling debt that this club has on top of it at the moment, which obviously is now rising towards 1 billion. If we come to you, Zach, is that sort of something that you think about in terms of the debt and then how much that can affect the club in future windows?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I suppose a positive, if you can take any of this new debt that Ratcliffe is using to buy the club on, is that he's loading it onto Ineos rather than the club itself. Although I'm not actually entirely sure our leveraged buyouts even allowed anymore. Look, it can't not impact the future. And then until he has 100% of the club, or at least the majority, I don't see him paying any of it off. I definitely don't see the Glazers paying it off themselves. I think that definitely was the appeal of Qatar, to getting rid of that debt.
And then staying with you, Zach, if we can talk about, do you think Radcliffe will actually be given a chance by the fans? Because obviously he's sort of sticking around with the Glazers in a way.
I think he should be. I think with Qatar being that 100% takeover option, people are understandably quite disappointed now that Ratcliffe's come in. But look, as Taylor said earlier, a few years ago, Ratcliffe would have been taking 25% with the aim of taking full control of the club. That would have been great news. Yeah, look, it all depends on his future plan. Does he plan on sticking with that 25%, or how long will it take him to get that majority?
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. And then obviously what I was thinking about in terms of the Glazers is, to you, Taylor, do you ever think they were really interested in fully selling this football club?
It's a difficult question, isn't it? I think what Zach said was, if they just had the Qatar offer, I think they would have been tempted by 8 billion, because who wouldn't be? They'd be really stupid not to. I think what happened was, when Ratcliffe did give them that lifeline, they just saw it as a new opportunity, and once they decided that they were going to stick around, no amount of money was ever going to change that.
Can I add as well that with the Glazers, I think it's important to sort of understand, although as much as we wouldn't like to, their mindset, in the sense that they've come into the club, not spent any of their own money since buying it. They're more than happy to, kick back, let the club sort of fall into whatever abyss it's falling into right now, and just earn their dividends or whatever money they're getting out of it. I think a lot of fans almost have this idea that the Glazers want to let go a lot more than they do anyway. Because look at them now. They're happy sitting with the club as it is, again, making their money, not having to do much work.
So you got to give them credit. They're unreal businessmen. They're really good.
As much as we hate them,
they're making a ton of money off of, like I say, investing nothing. They took out loans to buy the club, and yeah.
Exactly. They're not football people. At the end of the day, they're sat in their mansions wherever in America, just watching. Well, even if they are watching the club fall into the abyss, do they care?
They couldn't care less. No, it doesn't affect them.
Right, then moving on from the ownership more towards obviously the game that's coming up at the weekend, and then obviously future games in the weeks to come. We had obviously the players have just come back from international duty. Obviously, they've had a few United players doing very well: Rasmus Højlund, Marcus Rashford, and Bruno Fernandes, to name a few. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford have come under a lot of heat this season, Zach. So if I come to you, do you think after this international break that can sort of kick them on after having a good few weeks away?
You'd hope so. I mean, a lot of the problems at United on the pitch, especially, have been confidence from a lot of different players. And Rashford scored the other night against Italy, a really good goal, and then Bruno's had a good break as well. So you'd hope that when they come back, they do have that sort of new hunger at least, and a bit of confidence. So that break away from football, from the club, especially after winning against Brentford, if you go into an international break on a loss, that's tough. But hopefully we'll come back with a bit of positivity. And look, it's never an easy game with United, but we should be aiming to put a few past Sheffield on Saturday night. So I think if there's a time to prove that the players can do it, it's now.
And then coming to you, Ted, obviously mentioned Højlund, Rashford and Bruno there. Do you expect all of those to start on Saturday night?
The one who I would be the least sure about would be Rashford.
Sorry, boys, hold on.
I'll carry on.
Problems.
Yeah, I'll carry on. Just based off the Brentford game, Rashford really struggled. We saw Garnacho come on and make an instant impact, set up McTominay's first goal, and had a big role to play in the comeback in general. So it's tough to say whether he'll get the nod over Rashford. The only reason I might give it to Rashford is that obviously he got his goal. He's a massive confidence player, isn't he? That's what his entire career is really built off. It's just him being fantastic when he's at top confidence. So yeah, I think all three of those are going to start, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Garnacho come on maybe even earlier than we have been seeing him.
Do you think Garnacho's better off the bench?
He was good against Crystal Palace the last time he played, the last time he started. He was really, really good then. Obviously, that was a weaker Palace team. Yeah, I think he probably is better off the bench.
And then obviously, Zach, if I could focus in on Rashford, I think he gets a lot of stick on Twitter. I've seen that, and on other social media platforms. I've seen that again, this week. Do you think he gets too much focus on him in this Man United team?
I think that. I think the stick comes with how good he can be. When you set the expectations that high for yourself, it's almost expected that when you do, not inevitably, but when you do often drop off, that you will get a lot of criticism. Of course, it's probably better if no one. Well, criticism can be good, but sometimes players do need that backing from the fans. But how much of the social media criticism they take into account, I don't know. I feel like the match-going fans are the sort of voices that mean the most to them, especially like that's what they can hear when they're playing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think if you score, 40 goals last season, you're going to be the main focus. People are going to look for you for goals. It's inevitable because he's shown what he can do, and there's not been any. There shouldn't really be any reason for a drop off from him.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, you go.
No, I was just going to say, I think if out of the managers we've had, or Rashford's had, I should say, I think Ten Hag has got quite a lot of that out of him. He's that main man. I don't think Rashford will get dropped anytime soon. I don't think he deserves to, but even if he did, I don't think he would get dropped. I think the manager's just got that much confidence in him.
And then, obviously, Højlund's coming in this summer, still a young player, only 20, and obviously he's got to build up that relationship with Rashford. And so it's come to you, do you think Rashford and Højlund complement each other well enough?
No, I don't think so. I think, in fairness to Rashford, as last season, like we were just saying, 40 goals, he was the main man, he was the goal scorer. And all of a sudden now he's got to learn to be a provider instead of a goal scorer. And it's a difficult transition for him because it's never really been his strength. He's never been much of a crosser of a ball or a playmaker. So I think it will take a while for him to get used to it, but I definitely think they can do it.
Do you think do you think the roles can be reversed even? Because obviously Højlund's come in and you would expect him to be the main man, the goal scorer. But with, like, we saw against Brentford, especially the last game, his hold-up play is fantastic.
Yeah.
Can it be Rashford who's still the main man playing off Højlund?
It can be, but I think we have to remember that Højlund's 20, 21?
Yeah, 20, I think.
Yep, 20.
He's had not even a full season of professional football, and it's a lot to ask of him to instantly come in and not only be a goal scorer, but to be a hold-up player and a playmaker. And if we wanted that, then we should have signed Harry Kane, but we didn't. So I think we're going to have to give him time. He can do that, but it's a lot to ask of him.
Yeah, and then Zach, to come to you on Rashford and Højlund, do you think they just sort of need time playing together to sort of understand each other's games?
Yeah, of course. I mean, any strike partnership or any partnership on the field at all, it needs time to develop. You can't just bring Højlund in, no matter how much money you pay for a player, no matter how good they are. You can't just bring someone and expect it to click like that. Yeah, definitely needs time.
And then obviously there's been more injury news and team news today. Obviously Casemiro has been ruled out of the game on Saturday, and Amrabat and Reguilon are back. Højlund's trained as well, so those three players are obviously available. The return of Sergio Reguilon, who I thought had been quite good in the games he played, how important, Taylor, do you think it is to have a natural left back rather than chucking an unnatural player at left back?
I think, honestly, the main strength is just that we have Amrabat in the midfield is the main difference maker there. He's, based off what we've seen, he doesn't make the dangerous passes, but he just keeps the ball so well, and that's just what we need. Is we've got Mount and Bruno who can play the game-winning passes. We just need someone who's calm in the midfield and who can play the game at his own tempo. And I think it'll be really beneficial when we have him back in the midfield.
I would like to see more progressive passes from Amrabat, because I think his last year, his numbers have been fantastic at Fiorentina anyway, and at Morocco, of course. But against Brentford in his last few games, it has been a lot of sideways passing, which we used to complain about when we had McTominay and Fred in the midfield. Not that Amrabat's on that level. I think he's a great player, but it's just, again, it's about adapting.
And then we've obviously had the news that Kobbie Mainoo is supposed to be, back on the grass or back in training at least. I just wanted to come to you, Zach. What do you think the sort of future is for him? What sort of ceiling do you think he has?
He's got a very high ceiling. Ten Hag obviously loves him. The injury was unfortunate. Whether he comes back from the injury and gets straight into the team, I would be very surprised if he does. I think it would be sort of appearances off the bench here and there. He'll really have to prove himself to get that start, especially when Casemiro will be back soon and Amrabat, and then you've got Mount on top of him. But he's obviously only 18, so he's got plenty of time and some great players to learn off. He's got a very, very high ceiling.
And then obviously Sheffield United on Saturday again. Coming to you, Ted, do you think United can build on that Brentford result just before the international break? And then more importantly, obviously there's not been many great performances this season. Is it important for United to show a good performance on Saturday night?
Well, you say to build off that Brentford performance, but that it wasn't a great performance, if we're being honest. What it did was build confidence. I think if we had gone into the international break often losing to Galatasaray and losing to Brentford, then we would have been in real trouble. But they've had the time to reset, get their minds right, get themselves into the right mindset. And I would really expect us to win against Sheffield. Yeah, I'd be really disappointed if we didn't.
And then obviously our away record this season hasn't been the greatest. We won obviously at Burnley a few weeks ago. Do you think there's a real sort of lack of mentality within the squad, Zach, at the minute in terms of playing away from home?
I mean, I think that is a big reason for the losses away from home. Mentality is huge. Look at how important fans are to the game. When you go away, you need to be able to sort of almost block out those fans. Then again, United's away support has been fantastic, so maybe you can't even blame playing away from home.
I would add to that. We've had the same issues at Old Trafford. You know, let's go back to the Galatasaray game, where we just bottled it instantly. That was at home, and it's still. I just think it's a different kind of pressure that our players just can't deal with. I would really be surprised if it was complacency, you know, after it happening so many times in a row. So there's obviously a deeper lying issue there, and it's, I guess, down to the manager to figure out what that is.
It tends to be after we go that goal down as well, doesn't it? Like the heads just drop. It is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the Brentford game was obviously a few weeks ago now. Obviously the goal that we conceded in that game was another showing of, you know, poor defending, I should say. And then I think it's important on Saturday night as a good defensive display. Do you think the same, Taylor?
Well, yeah, of course. The thing with the Brentford goal, obviously a lot of the blame gets put on Onana at the moment, and looking back on it, I think he should have saved it. I don't know if you agree, Zach.
Yeah, I probably would. I mean, I've not actually seen a replay since watching it live, but
yeah,
from memory, I think he could have had a stronger hand.
Yeah, from where we were, it looked like he should have saved it. Yeah. But it was also Casemiro's fault with a bad pass. It was Lindelof's fault with a terrible clearance. And these are players who Lindelof never used to make mistakes, ever. He's not a top centre back in the Premier League, but he was always solid. There was Maguire next to him who would make the mistakes, and he's just, I don't know what's happened. I said, must be an underlying issue somewhere at the club, and it's down to the manager to get it sorted out.
It's got to come back to that mentality thing, surely, because we, look at United's team. We've spent so much money. We've got good players there. Just the amount of mistakes that we make, both on and off the ball, it's got to be no other excuse than mentality, surely.
Mm.
And then sticking with the defence, Harry Maguire came in for that Brentford game. He obviously played for England the other night. Do you think I don't think Varane is going to be fit by the sounds of it. Do you think Harry Maguire deserves to start again on Saturday, Zach?
By deserves, I think, that's the thing. It's either him or Evans, really. And then, look, you can probably even make a case for him and Evans starting. Who was that game we played a few weeks ago? It was Maguire and Evans both started. I think it was Brentford, no?
It was Brentford.
It was
there was just so little pace between them. If they get close to the striker and he turns them, then there's a free run and goal. And then we can't play that high line. So I think it does have to be Lindelof, thinking about it now. And Sheffield, I guess they'll look to put balls in the box, and then Maguire's your guy for those defensive clearances. I suppose he kind of has to, really. Yeah.
And then, obviously, we mentioned Onana there. Obviously, replaced David De Gea in the summer, and there was all the story about that. Just coming to you, Tay, do you have any doubts over Onana at the minute, or is it just simply a case of him needing time?
Well, I saw Jamie Carragher say, which I thought was a good point. He was saying, is it a case of him being in bad form, or is he a bad goalkeeper? And I think he's got the pedigree from what he's done to buy himself a bit of time as bad form. It's only a matter of time before the question starts being asked, is he just not a good enough goalkeeper? But I think for now you can knock it down to just his confidence being lower than it ever has been. He has a very confident facade, which I don't think he is. I don't think he is confident at all at this point. But again, the international break will do him a lot of favours, where the spotlight's off of him and he can get his head down and he can focus.
Do you think when he came in, there was, on the confidence point, there was a bit of overconfidence, and then he started playing, quite badly, I'll say, and then now it's shifted to that underconfidence?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if you go back to, was it his very first preseason game? He was
Against
Dalot
Real Madrid.
No, it was the one where he got chipped from the halfway line.
Oh, Lons at Old Trafford.
Yeah. I don't think that was his fault. I think that was Dalot's fault. But I think that was when you talk about overconfidence, he was too far off his line. He was wanting to get on the ball maybe more than he should have, and he got punished for it. And I wonder if just even from that moment on, he's just had doubts about playing his normal game.
I don't think his distribution's been, his long passing anyway has been not too bad.
I think it's been
this
fantastic.
is probably impacted by the Brentford game where I thought he was putting a lot of decent balls in. There was that weird thing from the goal kicks where I think Evans would sort of lay it off to him and he'd smack it up to Hoyland.
Yeah, I think people were getting quite angry with that.
Yeah, they weren't very happy, but I thought it was all right considering Hoyland's hold-up play.
It was working.
It's mainly the playing out from the back and the saves, which, saying it out loud, is most of his game.
Yeah.
So he's got something to work on.
And then, obviously, Ten Hag wanted to sign him in the summer because obviously wanted a more ball-playing goalkeeper. We know David De Gea's issues with that last season. Do you think him coming in, being good enough on the ball, has highlighted issues out on the outfield in terms of people in possession, Zach?
Yes. Look, he gets put under a lot of pressure. In terms of playing out from the back, when you've got our defense has been really inconsistent this season in terms of squad selection, because he was brought in and we're all thinking he's going to play with Varane and Martinez in front of him for the majority of the season. I know Varane's quite injury prone, but you'd still expect that to be a pretty much a mainstay. But look, Martinez is out and now he's got Maguire and either Johnny Evans or Victor Lindelof in front of him. So I don't think all of the blame should be on him. Obviously, a lot of mistakes are his fault. But yeah, I think the whole defence has to share part of that. Yeah,
and then obviously, speaking of that within team selection in terms of defenders, we've had that issue with the back line this season, poor mistakes and being how many injuries to defenders we've had now. How hard is it to build momentum, Taylor, when you're constantly playing a different back four?
Well, it's impossible. I don't think. Well, everyone knew that Varane was injury prone. It was always going to be tough for him and Martinez to really build a connection. They played a lot of games together last year, but they can't have that perfect connection if Varane's not there half the time. What I don't think people expected was for Martinez to be gone for as much time as he is. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about signing a new centre back over summer. They opted to sign Johnny Evans, but they opted not to sign, an expensive centre back, and that's come back to punish them.
And then sticking on that talk of a new centre back next summer, we obviously had Harry Maguire was supposed to leave in the summer, and then he opted not to. And then we've had a few names mentioned in recent weeks. We've had Antonio Silva from Benfica, we've had Inacio from Sporting, and Todibo and Tapsoba, and so on and so on. Zach, would you welcome a new centre back in if he was to be signed next summer?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Look, I think Varane needs to be better playing out from the back when he does play. I think I love Varane; he's fantastic. But to bring in someone who can permanently partner Martinez, who can really suit what Erik ten Hag wants to do, is vital. It's not going to happen in January, so we'll have to put up with whatever we've got until the next summer, and then you have to go all in on a centre back.
And then obviously the centre back has been highlighted this season, especially with the injuries we've had. Do you think there's been a real issue in terms of identifying injuries? Because what we know now is Martinez was playing with that foot injury. It's now going to keep him out for 3 months. He was playing while injured, Taylor. Do you think that's a real worry for the injury department at the club?
Yeah, it's terrible. And you could see that something was wrong as well, because he was a shadow of the player he was last year. I think communication from the club is really poor as well. There's a lot of injuries right now. Wan-Bissaka, we don't know what's wrong with him. Malacia, we're not 100% sure. I think is something that the club really needs to work on.
They're keeping the medical department busy, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
They're earning their wage as well.
We obviously had the new guy in come from Arsenal as well, who is supposed to be running the medical department now. He seems like he's going to have a pretty tough job on his hands.
Yeah.
And then moving on to, we've had a new report today about Jadon Sancho's future, which has obviously become quite a serious situation at the moment. He's not seen him play since, what would that have been, since around the Arsenal game. He hasn't played since. Do you think, Zach, that situation has become sort of unrepairable?
It's been 7 weeks now, 8 weeks, 7 weeks since that happened. And if he's not apologized since then, I don't think he will. Personally, I think I can actually see his side of it. Look, your manager comes out with comments that don't paint you in the best light. Of course, you're not going to be happy. Of course, he shouldn't have tweeted about it. But yeah, no, I don't see much of a way back from that. I think he'll get a loan move in January, and then we'll try and get him gone in the summer. The problem is going to be his wages and the fee we demand for him. Like, who's going to come in and put more than, I don't know, 20, 25 mil on the table? Yeah,
and then Taylor, coming to you, we spent sort of £73 million on Sancho. It wasn't a cheap transfer. Does it sort of feel like a waste now?
Oh, it's definitely a waste. I mean, like Zach said, you can see where he's coming from, because a lot of fans, me included, were advocating for him to get the nod over Anthony. And no matter what Anthony did, he was just in the starting 11 week in, week out. But at the same time, I believe Ten Hag when he says that he wasn't training hard enough. And that's never an excuse. Even if he was, I wouldn't expect that from Messi or Ronaldo. And he's nowhere near showing the quality to justify the attitude that he's got, in my opinion.
Also, sorry, can I just say as well, I've always wanted to say this, but breaking news, have you seen this Varane's back in training, according to Tyrone Marshall? It's come out about a minute ago. Yeah.
That's very good news.
Okay, good.
But he's not going to start anyway, but sorry for that interruption.
Fine, that's a good interruption, mate, don't worry. And then coming towards I was going to sort of go towards Ten Hag at the moment. There's a lot of questions about Ten Hag, as there always is about any United manager. For you, Taylor, is he the right man to lead this club forward?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think because the question is always, say we sack him, who next? You could look at Zidane maybe, but just give it 2 years, we'll be in the exact same boat over and over and over again. We've got a manager who's proven himself by taking Ajax to the Champions League semi-final, by single-handedly building one of the best Ajax teams in 30 years. I wouldn't switch him out for any manager at the moment, no.
At what point does it get? I mean, look, since Ferguson, we've had every type of manager. We've had Van Gaal, a good international manager; Mourinho, probably one of the best managers of all time; Ole, a club legend. Like, we need to realise, and I think people do realise, that it's most of the time at this club, the manager is not the big issue. I guess if we start losing 10, 15 games in a row, then you haven't got much choice. But I agree with Taylor.
Yeah, and obviously that rolls back round to the ownership and how many times this ownership needs to be questioned. And obviously, Sir Alex was a miracle worker, and since then we've not had anybody that's been able to work those sort of miracles that he had at the time. But to move on to what this previous Brentford game can do. Obviously, last season we had the 4-0 loss to Brentford at the time. Seems a long time ago now. Completely turn that season around. Can this Brentford result turn this season around, Zach?
I'd hope so. It's all about confidence, isn't it? Like, if we come back from that international break and really do sort of get going, then we'll look at the Brentford game and go, that's what kick-started it. But as Taylor said earlier, the performance wasn't amazing. I think this game against Sheffield on Saturday is going to be the real test.
I think I would just add to that as well, just say that we really need to stop needing a game to turn our season around every single year. I think people expected that to be the Brighton game, where we got destroyed at Old Trafford, and people are saying, "Oh, they'll come out swinging," and then we go and lose to Galatasaray. It's like I said, we need to stop requiring a big defeat every single season and just be straight on it. Like all the other teams challenging for top 4 are in a better place than us right now.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that. And then obviously after that Sheffield United game, our next 5 fixtures sort of look as in Sheffield United away, and then Copenhagen at home, and that big game next weekend against Manchester City at home, and Newcastle in the Cup at home, Fulham away. Taylor, how many points do you think we can get in that, and can United build a winning run from those games?
That's a very tough run to build a winning run. As I said, if we don't beat Sheffield, I'll be massively disappointed. I think real questions would need to be asked if we can't beat Sheffield. Same with Copenhagen, especially with how desperately we need Champions League points. I would have said before that Galatasaray and Copenhagen at home were the must-wins. And obviously we didn't get the points against Galatasaray. So if we don't win this game, I think that's our Champions League run over. City is a game that we've done quite well against City at home in recent years. We tend to just pull something out of the bag against them, but obviously, if you're looking at it on paper, I would be worried. I'd be very concerned.
What about that Newcastle game in the Cup? How do you think that goes?
I couldn't tell you. I think that'll be a really good game. I could not tell you. It's at Old Trafford, yeah?
Yeah, we're at home, yeah.
I think if we were away, then we would lose for sure. But at home, I think we've got a good chance of beating them. Yeah.
And then after this Sheffield United game, looking further ahead to the season, Zach, what would sort of be your expectations for the season, having seen us play sort of 10, 11 games in this campaign?
I think that 5th spot getting you into the Champions League could be our saving grace. I don't see us getting into the top 4. 5th, I reckon, will be a struggle, but I think we can finish 5th.
And then, Taylor, can you see United winning any sort of silverware this season, possibly the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup?
The Carabao Cup is obviously our best chance again. I would really enjoy winning something a bit better than the Carabao Cup. Maybe if we drop out of the Champions League to the Europa League, we have a decent chance of winning that. But I still can't see if City really want to win a trophy, it's very hard to stop them winning it.
Do you think it would be more important?
Domestic.
Do you think it would be more important for us to win a Carabao Cup again, or have a deep Champions League run? Not that that's likely. I'm just thinking in terms of confidence. What does that give you?
Yeah, well, a Carabao Cup doesn't really say progress, does it? It just shows that we're where we were last season. So I think, getting, obviously I'd agree that I don't think it will happen, but getting to the Champions League semi-finals or something would be more of a statement. Yeah.
And then that's sort of the main points I wanted to cover here. I've got some quiz questions now, just to round off the show. I don't know if you two have got anything to write, anything on, anybody listening wants to join in as well. But the first question,
I can get a document up. All right.
The first question from me would be, who is Man United's top goal scorer this season?
Are we answering now, or are we writing?
When do we answer?
Yeah, just write your answer down.
Shall I put it in my notes? I'll put it in my notes. Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay, I got it.
And then a bit of a tougher question. This one: how many home games have United won under Erik ten Hag in the Premier League since he took over?
Bloody hell.
Tough. Can you tell us how many we've had?
So we've obviously had 19 from last season. I think we've played 4 home games this season. It's 23.
Okay.
Obviously had that really good run last year in all competitions and winning 30 home games in a row. So
Yeah.
And then another one from last season was, how many goal contributions did Marcus Rashford get in all competitions last year?
Testing me.
Should have told us this was coming. I would have revised.
I have to completely guess on that one.
Probably another tough one here. This is to the nearest 10. How many appearances has Bruno got for United in the Premier League?
Oh.
He's obviously been here since January of 2020. January of 2020.
Okay.
He's hardly missed a game. I don't think he has missed a game through injury.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, got my
Yeah,
guess.
I got mine.
And then the final question is relative to this game on Saturday. United faced Sheffield United in this game on Saturday. But what was the score the last time the two sides met? Obviously, two seasons ago. 2 seasons ago in the Premier League.
Oh no, I got it wrong. Hold on. I was thinking of a different game.
Testing my ball knowledge. I'm not completely confident on any of these answers.
Right, I'm ready.
And that concludes the little quiz. And now to go through the answers for those questions. So top goal scorer this season is Casemiro, 4.
Yeah, that's a tick.
Let's go.
United have won 19 home Premier League games.
Oh no!
Wait, Taylor, what did you put?
What did you put?
I put 17.
I put 18.
Oh.
That's a point.
Okay.
Rashford got 41 goal contributions last year.
Oh, I have 42.
Oh, I put 45. No.
Oh, you're getting smoked, mate.
Oh, no. Okay.
And then Bruno's played 132 Premier League games for Man United.
What did you put?
I put 90.
You put 90?
That's poor for me, yeah.
I had 140.
Wow.
And then the final question was the last meeting between the two. Sheffield United won that at Old Trafford 2-1 in the rain in 2021.
Did David McGoldrick score in that game by any chance?
I don't think he might have done, actually.
Was that the game? Was that the game where
remember
first goal?
Harry Maguire scored in that game for us. I remember from the corner.
Oh,
yeah,
I do.
United lost that game 2-1.
Do you remember the goal we scored where we just dribbled it up the pitch? It was like passing all the way up.
Yeah,
Rashford's goal.
The away game.
I thought it was that one.
Yeah, and then that obviously concludes the show, lads. And then just the last point, I just want to get your score predictions for this game on Saturday.
3-1 United. I do think we'll concede, but surely you can't not beat them, surely. Famous last words, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm confident. I will go 3-0. I think we'll get a clean sheet.
Good, boys. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and hopefully we'll see you again at some point soon for the second episode.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.